Believe it or not, having good aim is not the biggest factor in winning your gunfights. You can spend endless hours practicing your aim, but you'll always be held back until you learn the best methods to picking your engagements. What's up, guys? My name is Valued, and today we're gonna have an in-depth discussion on everything you need to know about peeking. We won't be able to cover every scenario that can come up in Apex, but by the end of this video, you'll have a firm grasp on some of the best practices and specific techniques to peek more effectively and, most importantly, win more of your gunfights. So without further ado, guys, let's get right into it. All right, guys, before we go too crazy, let's cover what peeking is. Peeking generally refers to any time you come out of cover to engage with an enemy. In Apex, you're always looking to have obstacles to use to break line of sight with enemies and use anything as cover. Literally anything from a building to a rock in a field can fill this role, but having a wide variety of cover nearby is always preferable. It's important to understand the value of always keeping cover nearby, as peeking effectively depends heavily on the options you have available to you. The more cover nearby, the more options you have for how to engage. And with this in mind, the first step to mastering your gunfight engagements is to always have a clear understanding of the location on the map, where danger could potentially come from, and what cover you have available to you. This might sound obvious, but it's really easy to get distracted by loot or tunnel on your next rotation and find yourself out in the open or just unprepared for an enemy to fight. Having good awareness will get you those extra precious seconds to prepare for a fight, and the better positioning you have, the more options that you have at your disposal. All right, guys, the biggest reason you need to put emphasis on knowing what cover is nearby is so that you can effectively manipulate your enemy's lines of sight. This is the #1 technique that will make you good at peeking. When you break line of sight with an enemy, they have to guess where you are. And usually you can make safe assumptions about where someone is after they take cover because they're usually healing or standing nearby where they just peeked. Most players will take cover for a moment to heal or wait for you to reload, but the best players will be on the move as soon as they break that line of sight. If you have enough cover around to maneuver undetected, you should always look to mix up where you pop out for your next rounds of shots. Whether you climb up to the roof of a building or simply peek at the opposite side of a wall, the goal is to be unpredictable, using the broken line of sight as your tool to make your opponents guess your location. Timing is everything here, especially in closer ranged fights. Timing your repeek when you know the enemy is performing an action can be huge in getting a damage advantage. Whether it be healing, reloading, or even starting their sprint animation, catching your enemy without their gun ready to fire can give you a precious couple of seconds to come out on top in a fight. While it can take a lot of game knowledge and practice, using audio cues during these fights to identify as many actions your enemy is performing will help you to find way more openings for an advantage. The big ones you should always be listening for are enemies healing, rezzing, sprinting, reloading, and using abilities. While you'll never be able to hear everything, gathering as much audio as possible will let you know enemy locations and actions without having to keep line of sight on them. So getting good at mapping out enemy locations and having to set eyes on them is huge when finding an opportunity to peek, and can help you get a serious jump on other players. So once you get comfortable tracking enemies with your ears alone, you will have a ton more knowledge at your disposal, giving you a lot more confidence in enemy locations when you pop out to lay some damage. And speaking of confidence in dealing damage, if you're looking for help dialing in the best peeking techniques that we're talking about today, then make sure to head over to ProGuides.com. There, you'll find the best coaches on standby, ready to help you level up your game. The link will be in the description below. All right, guys, another massive consideration that you need to make when deciding how to peek is what weapons you have. Understanding your weapon's fire rate, range, and damage will help you peek in ways that fit your weapon of choice. For example, if you're using a shotgun at closer ranges, you should be adding in movement and preferably strafe behind cover between each shot. Doing fast repeeks, abusing your strafe speed when not aiming down sights to really speed up your movement is a great way to deal a lot of damage with shotties while avoiding damage by bouncing in and out of cover. The key in these fights is to be as fast and deliberate with your movement, mixing up your timing on your peaks and focusing on avoiding enemy damage by breaking line of sight wherever possible. This same mindset can apply to long-ranged options as well. Snipers, for example, follow a similar principle with their low rate of fire. However, you can usually get away with being a bit more patient with these peaks because you're at a much safer range. This being said, if you overpeak for too long and someone has a sniper pointed your way, don't be surprised if you get cracked. This is why doing quick peeks with snipers and shotties is always the best, as it will keep another sniper from getting an easy shot and will keep enemies guessing your exact location and line of sight. Now, on the flip side of this, peeking with automatic weapons is a bit of a different mindset. Most of the time, when you're taking shots with these weapons, you want to be peeking in a way that allows you to keep shooting until an enemy is downed, you need to reload, or they're severely hurt. These peaks tend to be much longer because weapons require a steady fire rate to deal their damage. With this in mind, your positioning and timing are very important. Having high ground or a head glitch can do wonders for allowing you the time to deal your damage. With your ADS movement speed being really low at Apex, these weapons put you in a lot of potential danger due to needing the ADS to deal very good damage, while also being in range for enemies to easily return damage. This is at the core of why peeking from a position that allows you to quickly re-enter cover is key, because you're a really easy target for the duration of a fight while you're firing an automatic weapon. So don't be afraid to bail on a peek if you find yourself instantly being shot when you leave your cover. You want to be finding ways to get a small jump on enemies with automatic weapons, because this is the key to getting your damage off without taking a ton of damage yourself. Alright, now let's talk briefly about the #1 tool for peeking that we haven't discussed yet: your teammates. Regardless of your team's skill level, they're the #1 tool for getting good engagements with enemies. Playing off your teammates' actions is crucial in winning more gunfights and getting quality, safe peeks in those gunfights. One thing to think about is your teammate shooting at someone. Oftentimes, you'll have a different line of sight than your teammate, leading to you getting easy knocks by finishing off an enemy that was cracked by your team, but is unaware that you might have an angle on them. Another thing to look for is, did your teammate get cracked? Enemies will usually look to push in these instances, and oftentimes you can get big damage for free if they're a little bit overzealous and step out into the open. So guys, if you're worried about your teammates doing a ton of damage, don't be, because they give and take pressure at all stages in the game. Even if they don't hit a single shot, if they take damage or get caught out, you can oftentimes capitalize on this, often saving them due to enemies getting way too greedy. And if your teammates are hitting shots, suddenly the pressure your squad can have with 3 different lines of sight is massive. The key here is to monitor your team's position, health, and abilities, always looking to peek and find damage when they are exerting or absorbing pressure. This will not only open up a ton of safe damage windows for you, but it will help your squad work together and hopefully stay alive. So whether you're a solo queue or in a full stack, track your squad and their actions and play off them. You'd be surprised how often you can hard carry fights just utilizing a poor performing squad's pressure. Alright guys, we've talked a bit about some of the things you need to take into consideration when peeking, but I want to do a clear, concise breakdown of the things that you need to consider every time you go to hit shots on an enemy. Firstly, you need to recognize where the lines of sight are. Are you in a good spot to peek for damage? Do enemies know where you are? And can their teammates shoot if you peek? After knowing what danger zones are and where you can peek, make sure your weapon fits the task. Do you have a sniper or a well-kitted AR to actually hit long-range shots? No? Well, maybe you need to get closer or wait for them to come closer before engaging. The same goes for close-range encounters. Don't go peeking at an enemy with a sniper or a bulky LMG unless you're confident that you can get a knock. If you engage in close-range fights with less than optimal weapons, you're oftentimes going to lose that gunfight. Lastly, do you have any abilities or nades that can help you start off the fight or get a jump on the enemy? Examples could include Horizon's Black Hole or a nice sky nade on a camping player. While you don't want to ruin the element of surprise, if you can manage to land easy ordinances or abilities while you have surprise on your side, it can help you get a quick knock when you do start laying down shots. And abilities like Bloodhound Scan can give you information to allow you to approach a fight safely and more intelligently. So remember guys, when you do go to peek, be sure to abuse cover and strafing in the best way possible for your weapon. If you're rocking a single fire, heavy hitting weapon, quick rapid peeks are the name of the game. But if you got an automatic weapon instead, make sure you're smart and deliberate with the peeks that let you lay down fire. And finally, guys, make sure to adjust your plan as the fight ensues. An example of this would be if you have white armor and notice upon hitting some shots that the enemy already has purple. While you still can win this fight, if they pinpoint your location and start hitting shots before you manage to get huge damage on them, they could very well turn the fight on your head. This is why it's important to adjust your game plan, finding a new angle to peek, or kiting the enemy out to find advantages that can make up for a large armor difference. Gathering info about the enemy's health during a fight and becoming more aggressive with your peeks if they're low and less aggressive if you're low is the key to winning more of your gunfights. So guys, one final note, make sure to take in as much info as you can before and during your fight, and use this info to enhance your peeking options and technique. And bam, that's gonna do it for this in-depth look on peeking. I know we didn't cover every single scenario in the game, but what we talked about today should give you the guidelines to becoming a menace in your gunfights. If you focus on the fundamentals of your peeking and use the information you gather throughout a fight to allow you to make better decisions, you'll find yourself winning a ton more of your gunfights. Let us know in the comments below which of these tips you found the most helpful, and maybe even let us know a tip that we didn't get to in today's video. Anyway guys, my name has been Valued. Hopefully you guys enjoyed, and I will see you guys in the next one. Peace.